Perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, I welcome questions throughout the presentation. I'll stop every few slides and see if anyone has any questions, so that'll give everyone an opportunity. Want to thank you, Hannah, for the nice introduction. As Hannah said, this presentation will be a little bit different than some of the other ones that we've had in this past seminar. There's no theory here. There's no papers written. There's no, I haven't published a book. I'm just an average person in the privacy field, the privacy and AI governance professional who just wants to share, as Anna said, what I do in my day-to-day life as working for Westfield Insurance. So I'm hoping that for those of you who have worked in the privacy field, in the privacy profession, this will kind of shed some light on, oh, here's what another person does, or here's what another organization does. For those of you who are considering potentially a career in the privacy field, this will reveal exactly what a privacy professional does. And for those of you who don't fall into either of those two groups, who weren't aware that there was such a thing as a privacy professional or AI governance professional, hopefully this will again shed some light on, oh, there's a whole field out there for privacy and AI governance and professionals that do that work. So with that, I'll jump into my presentation. So as Hannah said, I work for Westfield Insurance. It's a regional carrier in Northeast Ohio. We're about maybe an hour south of Cleveland. To give you a sense of direction, we originally called Ohio Farmers Insurance Company. We were founded in 1848. 1848. So this is, we think we recently celebrated our 175th anniversary last year. So this company has been around for a while and continues to grow. We have about 2,500 employees. And we sell exclusively through independent agents, so not direct to consumer, but through agents. Like a typical insurance company, we have, commercial insurance, personal insurance, auto, homeowners, property liability, small business, middle market, agribusiness, surety and bonds, and we've within the past few years we've expanded into the specialty insurance realm. We've also, as part of that, grown internationally. So about 2-3 years ago, we opened a office in London, in the UK. So Westfield Specialty International is based there, and we're also in the new year going to be opening a new location in the EU. Okay, let's see if I can get this slide down. There we go. So in terms of how Westfield views data privacy, Westfield exists to enable our customers' peace of mind and financial stability. Critical to consumers' peace of mind is honoring our promises to protect their information and standing accountable as honest, fair, and ethical in our handling of their data. The enterprise privacy program, as we wrote in our charter, will reinforce those values and help the company meet the privacy expectations of our regulars, consumers, employees, and business partners. Privacy function at Westfield, which is what I do, serves as an ombudsman, an independent voice representing the privacy interests of the consumer. So you may wonder, why are we representing the privacy interests of the consumer? Don't we work for Westfield? Aren't we representing Westfield's interests? The answer is, by default, it's easy for us to have the tendency to represent Westfield's privacy interests. The use of data is, like a lot of companies, the tendency is to, or the default way of thinking is, data is good, more data is better. We can use people's personal information for personalizing things and so forth and so on. So there has to be this voice that sort of counteracts and says, wait a minute, hold up, pause and think about, the uses of data, personal information or sensitive information. Are we thinking about data minimization? Are we thinking about purpose specification? Are we using individuals' data in a way that they would expect us to, in the way we would want our data to be handled? So we have to be that voice that always injects that way of thinking about privacy in the use of data. So Westville ensures that we will meet these obligations and expectations by implementing something that some of you have encountered before, the Fair Information Practice Principles, or FIPS. So this slide is a little bit small, sorry if you can't see it very well. So the Fair Information Practice Principles, these on the screen here were derived from the 1980 OECD guidelines, where OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. So these are 8 principles of privacy that historically have a lot of privacy laws and regulations have based themselves off of. I like to say that some religions have the 10 Commandments. I say privacy has the FIPS. This is really the true guidance of what to be keeping in mind when handling personal data. And it's something that we on the privacy team believe wholeheartedly, and that's something that we can try to inject in our engagements and interactions with others in our company. So I'll just to touch on some of these. We have the concept of transparency, where Westville is transparent and provides notice to individuals regarding the collection, use, dissemination, and maintenance of their PII. We tend to do this during within the privacy notices. Purpose specification, Westville shall clearly explain the purpose or purposes for which PII will be used. Data minimization, Westville only collects PII that is directly relevant and necessary to accomplish the specific purposes. So don't try to gather everything in the kitchen sink, just what you need. We only retain PII for as long as necessary to fulfill the specified purposes, including regulatory compliance. Use limitation, Westville only uses PII solely for the purposes disclosed in a privacy notice. Sharing PII outside of Westville may only for a purpose compatible with the purpose for which the PII was collected. So once you've specified your data, the use of the data in the purpose specification, you must limit the use of that data to the purpose that you have specified. If for some reason you want to expand the use of that data, it has to be for a compatible purpose. So if we gather data to do some sort of analysis or generate a report or offer to improve our products and services, we can't turn around and sell that data to some marketing company, for them to target our customers. That would be a totally different usage. That would be very different from the initial purpose specification. Data quality integrity, having good quality data is important. We have information security to protect our PII, and accountability is, again, something that the privacy team takes seriously. And of course, it's something that everyone in the organization is accountable for responsible use of personal information. Okay. In the privacy department, there's obviously a legal component to what we do. What influences our work is the CCPA, so the California Consumer Privacy Act. Since we're now international, it's the GDPR as well, the General Data Protection Regulation. As indicated here in the slide, we do some international data transfer agreements, and we have to utilize some standard contractual clauses to be able to transmit data from our employees, for example, our employee information from the GDPR from the UK to the US. The GLBA is mentioned here as well. I think that's the Graham, because I didn't write down what it stands for, the Graham-Leily-Beach Act, something like that. Sorry, I'm botching that. Yeah, it's an important law for us from the privacy standpoint for insurers. Under the GLBA, insurance companies and agents are considered financial institutions. However, our privacy obligations are primarily enforced by state insurance regulators, not the FTC. For insurers, this means that we must comply with the GLBA's privacy and security principles through state law, so not directly via federal oversight. Each state has adopted some version of what is known as the NAIC Model Privacy Regulations. NAIC is the NAIC, which is National Association of Insurance Commissioners. So they operationalize GLBA for insurance. What this translates to is that there are entity level exemptions under the GLBA. Most states hold us to, exempt entries that are already regulated by the GLBA. So as the insurance company, we're regulated by the GLBA. So that means we're exempt from most state privacy laws. The exception is California, which exempts data that is subject to the GLBA, but not the entity itself. And that's why the CCPA is up here, because that is the only state privacy law that we have to beholden ourselves to. I know that was a lot. I'll pause here in just a moment. Additionally, our responsibilities are to deal with other regulatory compliance. We use a tool called OneTrust there in the brackets, which I'll demo shortly. It has a module called Data Guidance, which provides information about privacy laws, regulations, basically breaking news on all things privacy. We utilize that. And from a legal perspective, the privacy team participates in contract reviews with our vendors to make sure that the correct privacy and AI governance language is present. So I'll stop there for a moment. Any questions? Oh, okay, I'll keep going.
Sorry.
Oh, is there a question?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot that the room mic was on. Yeah, you mentioned these specific privacy laws, and it seems like there's a complicated interleave of kind of how these, like which laws might preempt another law. Who makes this determination? Is this Westfield's legal team that is kind of interpreting which laws that Westfield has to comply with, or is this coming from elsewhere?
That's a great question, and it's a good opportunity for me to step back and say the structure of the privacy team within Westfield is we have at the top, we have our chief privacy officer and privacy counsel. Then there's me, and then I have a direct report who does a lot of the day-to-day. So to answer your question, it would be our chief privacy officer. Oh, I hear some echo. It'd be the chief privacy officer who would be the main person to interpret these laws and understand which ones are the most applicable.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, thank you.
Is there another question in the room? Okay. Maybe someone just accidentally unmuted. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Keep going. All right. Another responsibility we have on the privacy team is policy management. So we have to write the privacy, we call them promises at Westfield, but these are the privacy notices that appear on our website that various groups can go out to and see to understand, our usage of their data and the reasons why. So I'm going to see, it's going to be a little bit tricky here, trying to switch screens a little bit, but I want to share, show or demo our privacy promises. Give me one sec. I'm on 3 monitors here, so I'm bouncing around trying to figure out which connects to which. All right, I'm going to stop sharing this for just a moment. Hopefully that will work. All right, and then I'm going to share again. A different screen. Okay. All right. So this is the Westfield Insurance website, westfieldinsurance.com. If one scrolls down, scroll, you can see our privacy promises link right here. Click on that, and you're taken to what we call a disambiguation page to break out the different audiences for our privacy notices. So, we have insurance, customer, claimant, or witness in the US versus outside the US. Westfield has a large hospitality operations. Westfield has an inn, a conference center, and a country club with a couple of golf courses. So we're kind of a unique insurance company in that regard. But we have a separate privacy notice for that. We have broken up across California versus not California. Again, I mentioned earlier how we're subject to the California privacy law, but we have privacy notice separate for employees, applicants for employees, contractors, and then in California, it's broken up separately between employees, contractors, and applicants for employment. And these two down here, I won't mention. They're for what was formerly the, we had a couple extra rows here for the Westfield Bank, which you've just recently sold. But we do have a couple of privacy notices here for our Westfield Specialty employees and our Westfield Specialty international applicants. So quite a few privacy notices that we're responsible for writing and maintaining. Okay, stop sharing again. Okay, and I'm going to share back where I was. See if this works. Okay. Can you see my screen again? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so in addition to these external facing notices, we have an internal facing policy. That's kind of the middle line here. I won't click on that or show that or go through that, but basically this is a document that is written to indicate, especially to the privacy team, but really to all of Westfield, again, proper procedures for data protection and maintenance of the privacy of the data that we have. The privacy team also is involved with other policies that we support and negotiate on. So relating to information security, data governance, vendor management, all the engagement with vendors for the data that especially data that we provide to them, personal information, making sure that that's being done appropriately. Data classification, identifying which data elements should be classified as restricted, confidential, internal, or public. And data retention, I'll get into in more detail in just a moment. Okay. So one topic that is of key importance for those of us in privacy operations is privacy by design, or PBD. So what is this? So this is the concept, it's a GDPR concept originally, of data, including data protections throughout the technology design, whereby privacy is seamlessly integrated into product services and system designs by default. So the idea is that we whenever there's a new or changing usage of PII, is making sure that keeping in mind those FIPS, the data minimization, the purpose specification, the use limitation, information security, data quality, making sure that from the design phase of these changing processes, working with IT, that we're thinking about taking the most privacy conservative steps where it makes sense to do so. And how do we do that? We have IT architecture reviews. So we have an architectural review board that meets on Mondays. So we attend that and see what's coming down the pike in terms of, again, new systems, new tools, new processes, looking at that technical architecture and seeing where PII is flowing and, speaking up if, we think things should be done differently, making sure that protection of PII from a privacy perspective is being taken into account. We also do reviewing features for development. So we're an agile company. We use agile project management. So, for the various agile teams that review, do their program increments and review the upcoming features for development. We join their meetings as they're reviewing the features. And again, looking at everything from the angle of, is this taking privacy appropriately into account where applicable? And, we speak up when we think any changes should be made, or if there's any mitigating controls or treatment plans. Okay. All right. Privacy impact assessments. This is one of the biggest, most dominating things that we do. And, I think for some of you know exactly what this is. For others, you've never heard of it before. So what exactly is a privacy impact assessment? So I'm going to, again, demo something here in just a moment. Okay. Once again, we use OneTrust as one of the leaders in privacy tooling out there for our to house all of our PIAs. And we've, created a template in OneTrust that houses all of our questions that go in those PIAs. And I just want to share with you what a PIA at Westfield looks like. So let me stop sharing and reshare. Sharing here. Sharing the screen. All right, so this tool is again called OneTrust. Let me see if I can move this out of the way a little bit. Here we go. All right, so at the welcome screen, we talks about what a privacy impact assessment is. So PIA is a process which helps assess privacy risks to individuals in the collection, use, and disclosure of personal information. This template that we've created is a practical tool to help identify and address data protection and privacy concerns at the design and development phase of a project. Again, building data protection compliance in from the outset rather than bolting it on as an afterthought. So there's that privacy by design again. And a PIA should be carried out whenever there is a change that isn't likely to involve a new use or significantly change the way in which personal data or commercially sensitive information is handled. So like a redesign of existing process or service, a new process or information asset being introduced. So that kind of gives you the idea of some of the things that when these changes to the use of PII occur, the privacy team should be notified, and we can do this privacy impact assessment to assess the degree to which privacy is impacted. So we have some questions in terms of general information about the project, where the data is coming and going to, inputs and outputs, volume of records. Is it standalone or does it interconnect with other systems? Again, trying to understand the complexity of the use of the data here a little bit. What are the operations that are performed? And I realize these are a little bit faint. This is because this is a completed assessment, so it grays everything out. A really important set of questions is about the type of data. So going a little bit. So here we give the respondent the opportunity to select what type of data elements are being used as part of this data flow. So we've broken it up by here's restricted data like biometric or race, ethnic or national origin, things like that, health information, precise geolocation information. So we're going to find out what is being used. And then next category is confidential. Again, claim numbers, policy effective dates, policy numbers. Again, this is an insurance company, IP address or browsing history, name, employee ID, so forth and so on. And then internal data, again, some insurance related terms like coverage limits, business valuations, vehicle history score. And then public information is information you could find off the internet. So that could be a company's name, a business address, business contact, stuff like that. So again, we use that to kind of help identify the sort of severity or magnitude of the risk with the use of this PII. Right. So we talk about our data subjects, where are they located? Yeah, to whom, about whom, or what type of individuals are we collecting the PII? To whom, or what type of individuals are we sharing the information with? This was a GDPR, this was an international data flow. So, we had to identify what was the lawful basis condition for which the data can be transferred. We chose legitimate interest as our lawful basis. We look at specify the legitimate interest purpose itself. Why is the information necessary to the purpose? So we do a balancing question in terms of what evidence do we have that the company's interest considers the individual's interests, rights, and freedom. So a little bit more in-depth questions whenever there's a GDPR component to privacy impact assessment. Obviously, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but for those of you who've done PIAs, I'd be interested to know your thoughts on how this differs from what you've seen at other companies. That's okay. So PIAs, yeah, that's a big part of what we do. Another part of what we do is cookie consent management or cookie banners. So if I was to go to, let me go here, So westfieldspecialty.com as an example. Go here, cookie banner pops up. One has the option to, you can look at your cookie settings, do you want to, have targeting cookies drop on your site, functional cookies, performance cookies, you can allow all, reject all, that sort of thing. So we use OneTrust, once again, that tool to create our cookie banners for our various websites, both external and internal. And again, that's a part of the role that I fill, is creating these banners. Within OneTrust, one can go to the cookie consent module. Go down here, say to Westfield Specialty. One can look at the most recent scan of cookies that are on our site, what types of categories they fall into, like targeting cookies, functional, strictly necessary, performance. We can compare scan over scan time periods. We can create, we have a way to create templates for, let's see, where did it go? Let me just do this one. Templates for our cookie banners, so we can design and structure the look and feel of a cookie banner that goes on one of our sites, the preference center, where one chooses the different categories of the types of cookies, et cetera. So ton of functionality here within the tool to set up cookie banners and to manage the cookie consent process. I'll pause here again. Any questions?
We have one in the class. Do you want to just speak up?
Yeah. So does Westfield Insurance have a cookie policy separately? Like, I'm not able to find it in the privacy notice.
Let's see. Cookie policy. I'm not sure if it's here under. It should be, or I'm not sure if it's here in this one or if it's another banner. But there should be. That's the short answer. Yeah, if you search on the Westfield Insurance site, you might be able to find it, or if you just search out there in terms of Westfield Insurance cookie policy, that kind of thing, it might be out there as well. That's a good question. Because it should be publicly facing.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hi, Jillian. So you guys have branched out to the UK recently. So how was your experience creating ROPA for UK's GDPR? And did you maybe use the OneTrust platform, or did you do it manually? How was your experience overall?
Another great question. ROPA, so records of processing. I don't know what the A stands.
Yeah.
Activities. Thank you so much. So we did create that. It's something I can even show you, but it's buried in some folder somewhere at the moment. But basically at a high level, identifying the various types of functionality, such as claims or policies or HR data, kind of what the different divisions of types of data were, and understanding kind of the from points, the to points. We did it all manually. It was all done manually. We had someone in enterprise architecture do the heavy lifting of digging into the details of all the processes, of all the flows of data. And then from that, we summarized it and put it into the ROPA. And the ROPA was a spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, stop sharing here.
We have a question on Zoom as well. I guess this is also related to kind of the expansion into new jurisdictions. What challenges arise in applying the FIPS consistently across different legal and cultural environments? So you mentioned Westfield's privacy practice seems to be based on or rooted in FIPS. Do you see challenges and navigating kind of the differences in legal and cultural environments, or has Celestial taken a position of taking kind of a more uniform stance?
Sure. An interesting question. We have our privacy officer joined our organization just under a year ago, and she, oversees, the full global privacy operations. And I would say as she's, smoothed into her role, she's expanded more and more into the international space, and has become more and more part of the oversight of those actions there. So we haven't quite fully we made leaps and bounds in terms of integrating, if you will, the full privacy function across the U.S. and international. I would say, last year and for much of this year, they kind of acted like two separate side-by-side things. So, aside from all the paperwork that had to go in place, like the standard contractual clauses, the international data transfer agreements, and the ROPA thing, all that had to be done, but it was done by her predecessor prior to, joining companies and, being able to transmit data. Aside from that, trying to amalgamate the two halves into one, I think is going to be a topic or a challenge for her to address in the new year. Culturally, there's at the UK, there's some cultural differences. There's that accents, which sometimes can be challenging to get past. There's the difference in hours; they're 5 hours ahead, so trying to find times that work for everyone. A lot of people here, no one in the privacy team yet has made their way over to the UK yet, but there can be, I guess the time to travel to meet with someone face to face. That's a challenge. So we're also expanding into Luxembourg, which is going to, that's going to have its own team. We're going to be getting a privacy manager to oversee all the operations for Westfield Specialty International. So taking steps across the board, try to deal with the challenges of expanding into the international space. I think there's some more questions in the chat.
Yeah, you're welcome to read them, or I'm happy to read them out. Whatever is easiest.
Let me see if I can open one on one. Talking about incident response, from your experience, which part of the incident response privacy perspective is most challenging in large firms, organizations, and what are the lessons learned that smaller companies often overlook? So I think I have it even coming up on another slide that routine incident response is something that privacy operations, myself and my colleague Irvin, that we do. I would say maybe one part of being part of a bigger organization is that we use a lot of different vendors for a lot of different functionalities and services, and oftentimes a lot of our incidents are vendor based. So we might have the internal incident. Well, somebody sent a file with people's SSNs by mistake. That's pretty routine. That could happen anywhere. But we have so many vendors, and we hear in the news about vendors being hit with attacks all the time. So, every month at least we get at least one vendor that said, I've been hit. We don't know yet if your data that we have has been compromised. We're looking into it. We're doing our analysis, our forensics. We'll get back to you. So that's a challenging aspect of being in a larger company, dealing with these incidents. But that's a part of what we do, is having to deal with that. Lessons learned is I would say the lesson learned is make sure with your contracts with your vendors that you stipulate that they make you aware of when they've had a cyber attack or some sort of information security issue, within a very short time period. You don't want it to be such that it goes on a long time and you're not made aware. So that's a lesson learned. Next question, how often is it that someone would revisit completed PIAs to compare predicted risk against actual incidents or near misses? If that does happen, what was learned from that feedback loop? Good question. So I would say right now, the bandwidth that we have with our team is doing new PIAs. And I would say there's just like a handful or anecdotal follow-ups to PIAs if there's issues based on based on specific things that we want to follow up on. We don't have a regular cadence to go back through PIAs at different levels of risk. Go back at 6 months for high risk or 1 year for low risk, whatever. We don't have that in place. Not that it hasn't crossed our minds or occurred to us. We just don't have the bandwidth to follow up on all those risks. The approach we take is we take people's word. So if someone says, I'm going to implement this mitigating control, or we're going to post that sign, do this training, whatever they say they're going to do to mitigate risk, we trust that they will do it. And oftentimes they'll respond. And so we've implemented this now. We can go into the PIA and update and say this was implemented on whatever date. So yeah, so that's the best approach that we can take right now with the resources we have. Okay, another question looks like during a data incident, there is a need for sufficient logs to conduct investigation, yet privacy regulation emphasizes data minimization. How does Westfield manage this tension in practice? We only keep our logs, I think, for like 90 days. And I think we have a information security policy in the books that says logs are not to contain PII. So there shouldn't be, for a standard log of, there might be like employee ID of, so-and-so accessed this system to do and made this change or whatever, logs have that kind of thing, but that's probably the extent of it from a PII perspective. It's kept very, very minimal, or in some cases, not at all. But we have a very short retention on logs, so we don't collect reams and reams of logs, with all this PII or other information. So hopefully that, I see, okay, gotcha, cool. Great questions. All right, if we're good there, I'm going to jump back to the presentation. Close down the questions. Share my screen again. Go right here. Share. Okay. All right, so we talked about this slide. Data subject rights requests. That's another key thing that the operations team does. So what's a DSAR? It's a submission by an individual to a business asking to know what personal information of theirs has been collected and stored, as well as how it's being used. Data subjects can use the DSAR to ask that certain actions be taken with their data, such as deleting their data, amending their data, or opting out of future data collection, or they want access to their data in a readily portable format. All right, so I'm going to demo something here again. Let me go back to, I'm just going to go back to my page. All right, let me stop sharing and reshare. Stop sharing this one. This one. All right, back to our privacy notices. So if we go into one of our privacy notices, this is one for US customers. Scroll. We're currently in the process of revamping these privacy notices. These were written by the current privacy officer's predecessor, so she is revamping these. But these are the old ones for right now. So down here, privacy contact information, it talks about those rights, I should say. So says click here if you want to submit a request relevant to those rights. So click here. Right. And again, once again, OneTrust is a tool that we use to create these web forms and I realize this is like really tiny. Let me zoom in. Web forms that users can access if they want to submit a data subject rights request. Again, a request to access their data, to correct their data, delete their data, etc. So right now, if you click Alabama, nothing. If you click any state other than California, nothing happens. There should be some sort of message popping up here, but The reason for that is, once again, we're only beholden to California state privacy laws. So, we don't have to extend rights because of the GLBA. We're exempt. We don't have to extend rights to residents of other states. And, the privacy officer taking the approach, not to extend ourselves where we don't need to create any risk. So therefore, we don't offer those rights to other states. But for California, if you select that, you can see this form pops up whereby you can select if you're insured, if you're a claimant. This is like what type of data subject you are. Based on what you pick up here, will determine what type of fields will occur down here. If I do claimant, if I do authorized agent. So if there's an authorized agent who's submitting a request on behalf of somebody else, they have some additional fields that appear. So basically, one, and here's the rights that we respect, that we will allow them to exercise. Again, correcting personal information or access or deleting. So they will fill out all this data and submit, and we receive, though, we get a notification and receive a record inside OneTrust that says you received this request for a DSAR, and then it follows a workflow step by step of the steps we need to take to satisfy that request. Fortunately, as an organization, we get very few of these. Now that we've restricted down to California residents, I think we'll get even fewer than few. So this is not a major issue for our company as data subject rights requests. Okay, we stop sharing that.
There was a question on Zoom about kind of the field, are you requesting for a minor? Does that also have some legal implications behind that?
Sorry, what was the last part of the question? I heard about requesting for a minor.
Yeah, is that because of additional legal obligations, for example, with COPPA, or why is that field relevant for DSAR requests?
Because the data of minors is considered, by us to be very sensitive. So, that's just a factor, we take into account when, when that request comes in. So we haven't received any requests right now for minors, so I can't speak to how we've treated them differently. But the intention is, to be more careful with those types of requests. We would probably, outside of the forms, seek information. How do you we can do correspondence through the OneTrust tool, in terms of, how are they speaking for this minor? Do the minor's, birth certificate, that kind of thing, just proof that someone is the appropriate or approved person to represent the minor. Okay. All right. And then we
no, I think we lost you.
Right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. My headset just disconnected and reconnected for no reason. Okay, so I was just talking about incidents, again, disclosures of data breaches, vendors having issues. These are so commonplace, unfortunately, that it's pretty routine for us to deal with those. Data retention. This is another major area of responsibility for the privacy team. Westfield keeps and maintains corporate records in a variety of different formats, consistent with its business needs, as well as applicable laws and regulations. Westfield has established a schedule of records retention, which specifies how long each type of corporate record is to be maintained, after which the record should be destroyed by the persons responsible for them. So we have a link to our records retention policy, which I won't click on, but and it mentions down here, that again, with the it kind of came to light, or sort of got kickstarted, this revisiting of data retention at Westfield through motor vehicle records. Won't go into a long story, but it was something that we were retaining for too long and needed to delete. So we just completed a project whereby in HR, in enterprise risk management, and personal lines, commercial lines, policies, we now have MVR records being purged after, I think, a 5-year period. So, that's the sort of like typical type of retention project that we have going on. We have a records barn, which is this sort of large warehouse full of paper records. There's definitely some low-hanging fruit there that, could be purged. And as an organization, we're currently doing assessments of all the business units to understand their data retention, complexity, and risk. So the complexity of their area, the risk related to the PII of their records, and how compliant are they with their data retention periods. The idea is to identify those with the highest risk and the least compliant to tackle as separate data retention projects next year. And stop me if there are any questions. Okay. All right, as part of the privacy team, we have, one of our responsibilities is to provide education to the rest of the organization. So we have, we do education or trainings in privacy, of course, in HIPAA, Health Information Privacy and, Portability and Accountability Act, and GDPR, teaching the organization what GDPR is and when it applies to them, and just general data ethics. So we went through some revamping of some of those this past year.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Some other support that we provide, support on cyber law. Again, that's something that our privacy officer typically does. She also liaises with government relations and the trades. We have a privacy inbox that we all have, the three of us have access to. So any miscellaneous queries come in, which could be any kind of question, even some not even related to privacy, that we all have to triage and field, and miscellaneous other queries that come across our desk all the time. This slide just gives a little bit of an overview between data security and data privacy. So since sometimes there can be confusion between what each of these are, so this kind of outlines, some of the separate responsibilities and where there is some overlap down here at the bottom. Data security is responsible for the safeguarding of personal information using physical, administrative, and technical controls, whereas data privacy is responsible, is more oriented towards the responsible use of personal information. Okay, here's a fun slide. Again, privacy officer here on the right, myself in the middle, and my direct report here on the left, in terms of who does what. So I'll let you take a gander at this for a few seconds. I'm kind of the person in the middle, so I do work overlapping with the other architect on the team, as well as with the privacy officer. So my plate is pretty full, and this is only about 50 to 60% of what I do, because I have a whole other AI governance responsibility as well. This kind of encompasses everything that we do from a privacy perspective. Okay. All right. One thing I do as a program manager for privacy is I keep track of our monthly summary of accomplishments. So I'm going to bring something up again. One moment. I wonder if I can just drag this. There we go. Can you see a presentation on the screen that says Enterprise Privacy Program Accomplishments?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, every month we work away at privacy, and it's like, we get a lot done, and it's like, but when you look back at it, you kind of forget, what exactly did we do? So this is our way to keep track of everything that we've accomplished during the past month. And I share this because I think this is a really cool thing to do if you work in an organization, whether it's privacy or, or not, as a way, for a team to keep track of everything they've done within the span of a month. So we keep track of our privacy impact assessments and legitimate interest assessments. We've recently started to do data protection impact assessments for the GDPR side of the house. Any data incidents, any data subject rights requests that we had, any contracts that were reviewed. We keep track of our metrics, of our PIAs, what status they're in, completed, in progress, not started, stuff like that. We keep track of the level of risk of our PIAs. The vast majority are low, some are medium. There's just a very tiny amount that are high or very high. Within the OneTrust tool, which generates these, we can click on high or very high and delve in and see, which assessments is generating this. For the DSARs, we can keep track of, what was the reasoning behind the DSARs, like accounting of information or do not sell, requesting the right to opt out. Again, this is kind of historical over time. So this covers several years worth, actually. Down here for PIAs, we have some trend analysis. We kind of started them in the fall or very late 2023. So you just see like the one bar here for 2023 here in December. And that you can see that the 2025 numbers are higher than the 2024 numbers. And this is because we are more established now as a privacy program. Again, we really didn't get started to like the later part of 23. And also we have more intake channels now for becoming aware of PIAs. And the word of the need for PIAs has spread so that people are more aware of them now and are more likely to reach out to us to do them. And then again, the low, medium, and high residual risk level, again, kind of keeping pace from year to year. Finally, for data incidents, kind of keeping track of minor data incidents, kind of spiked kind of in the spring of 2024. It's since been trending down. And then the 2024 year over year with 2025, we've had less in 2025, although it may be that with our privacy officer, she may be looped into more incidents that Irvin and myself are less aware of. So we may not be capturing those. So we're going to revisit this metric. But again, it's good. It's a good way to keep track of your performance. And I think we're almost done. Wait 1 second. All right. So contact us. This is mostly either internally or externally. If there's any questions, concerns, needs, etc., this is how to get a hold of us. And last but not least, any questions?
Great. Thank you so much for this overview. Maybe we can do a round of applause before yes, we have one in the room.
Just one quick question. You just put up a slide about data incidents. What is a data incident and why are there so many?
A data incident, it can run the gamut. It could be something really simple as someone internally sent a spreadsheet of SSNs to somebody else. So that's an incident whereby this is a sort of like an inappropriate use of PII, personally identifying information, SSNs, or somebody sent it to a vendor. So again, we're breaking with purpose specification. Those SSNs are being used for analysis of claims or to improve our products. And now, someone else has access to this private information that they shouldn't have. So that could be like a minor scale data incident. We can go all the way up to what I mentioned in terms of, vendor data breaches. So a vendor gets, we have partnership with a vendor whereby we send PII to the vendor for whatever purpose, they're fulfilling for us. And they get hacked. And, there's been unauthorized access to their systems. And in those systems contain PII of Westfield, either customers, Westfield employees, whatever. And, in those cases, sometimes it could be hundreds of people's PII that has been exposed. And in a lot of those cases, we have to send out letters saying that we became aware of vendor ABC, had a breach at such and such a date. Your information was accessed. We don't know, we don't believe that it was being used nefariously or, used against you. But we just, out of due diligence, want to make you aware of this occurring. So we have little things we have to deal with one or two people to things that go on for months with vendors, with letters being sent out to dozens of people. It's a big production. There you go. Good question.
Thank you. We do have a couple of other questions in the chat as well. So I guess these are maybe more reflection type questions. Is there a specific privacy practice in your workplace that you're particularly proud of or would like to see other companies adopt? Yeah.
That's a nice question. I would say, our embracing of the FIPS as being kind of our tried and true guidelines for everything that we do. That those I find are so powerful. When you explain them to other people about minimizing the amount of data you use, only using the data for a specific purpose, making sure the quality of your data is good and accurate about somebody. People are like, oh yeah, I do that, or I never thought about that before. So kind of evangelizing those principles, getting the word out about those and get people to also adopt that mindset. Definitely proud of the inroads we've made within the organization, being reflected by how privacy conscious we're seeing a lot of people being.
Great. Yeah, I can definitely see how that particular set of guidelines can be useful for kind of setting this tone and culture of privacy. We also have a question related to the metrics that you showed. It's great that you're tracking kind of overall team performance, but the question was more how you or others on your team track individual progress and growth. Is that something that you discuss as a team as well?
I would say not in this context. I mean, Westville has a very rich, HR program. We're assessing ourselves and tracking our performance and all that good stuff across the board. Including privacy specific stuff and otherwise. So happens via HR, but we don't track metrics. I mean, it's a team effort, and as you can see, there's a lot of overlap of who does what and who helps whom. So it's kind of hard to tease out like this was strictly what you did, this is strictly what you did. I would say for the most part, it's not applicable.
Okay, thanks. I also had a question. I guess there's another question in the chat, so I'll let that go first. It was actually related to the question that I had, but it was more, if we could spend a few minutes discussing kind of your role in AI governance and kind of what practices that you've implemented as a result of this additional responsibility, that would be helpful, and kind of the interplay between privacy and AI governance and the overlap in functions in that regard.
Sure. And you know what? I had a whole other presentation on AI governance ready to go for what I do there, but I didn't know what the timing would be like. So maybe for another day, I'll do that one and get into that. But looking at the question, how much does your role as an AI governance lead overlap with your role as privacy program manager? Are there any differences in how you approach the two domains? Well, obviously there's overlap because, with AI governance, there's a lot of the same concerns, again, back to the FIPS, the core of everything, AI uses a ton of data, to train models. That kind of goes against data minimization. We don't have consent oftentimes for models. They're using the model for some other purpose that the original that the customer employee didn't originally conceive of. So is consent really occurring? use specification. We say in our privacy notice what we use, the data for, training models or coming with other that sort of thing. Is that being specified? Do we need to specify that? We actually, consulted with outside counsel, and it was, based on our repertoire of AI inventory use cases. It was deemed that we didn't need to put out a statement, a separate statement, or part of an existing privacy notice about our use of AI. It was, I guess, factored or folded into the other uses. But that's kind of how the overlap is. And then there's an overlap of resources, me as a resource and the privacy officer as a resource, trying to juggle, the privacy responsibilities and the AI responsibilities. Just so kind of the overlap. And in terms of differences in how we approach the two domains, the privacy operations stuff that I went over is kind of, who does the work. It's, very much the privacy team. For AI governance, we have something called an AI governance review board, which consists of a cross-functional team to review AI use cases. So it's got more of the organization involved, with the review of these AI use cases and some of the responsibilities there. So that's one difference.
I have a question, a very quick question. So I know you have the Westfield have the Mission Safe.
Yes.
Program. Do you know that?
Yes.
So my question is, do you use any specific PPML techniques or privacy enhancing techniques to protect users' privacy in who opting this kind of program?
I was actually I was the business analyst on the team that actually implemented that. So I guess I can speak to it a little bit. Mission Safe, for those who aren't aware, is user-based. It's called UBI. I think user-based inference or something. It's an app you have on your phone that you get as part of personal auto insurance. It's a voluntary program that keeps track of your driving behavior. So, it tracks if you are speeding, it tracks if you're picking up and using your phone, it tracks if you're going sharply around a corner, not careful handling of your car, that sort of thing. So, so we have a engagement with, I think they were called Cambridge Technologies, that, creates the app, receives the behavioral data, all the movements, the geolocation data, stuff like that. For Mission Safe, we did put that, I think we did create its own privacy notice. I remember the Google App Store wanted something specific for that. So, I think we have within the app a link to its own privacy notice, which indicates, again, what we do with that specific data. So again, it's just, we're not taking that behavioral data and interpreting it in other ways. We're not saying, oh, well, this person always goes to this bar or, something. All the data is just, so, again, the purpose specification and the use limitation, the data is only used for, understanding the level of risk or the score of the driver, how well they're driving. There's no penalty if someone has a bad score. They don't, have higher premiums or anything like that. They just don't get incentives. If your score is low, then you get rewarded. You get incentives for that. So, so that's another way with being, careful with that data. And data minimization applies to whereby, again, we're only sending the minimum amount of, receiving the minimum amount of data from the phone, only, sending the minimum amount of data back and forth with Cambridge, retention policies are in place if you don't keep data older than a certain period, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick follow-up. If I really had a very bad score in this project, can I request to delete my data?
I don't think we've had that kind of request. But I think it could be honored. Because we could just ask Cambridge.
Yeah,
I mean,
I didn't see any deletion options in your privacy policy when I read them online. So I'm just curious.
Okay. Yeah, that would be like a DSAR, data subject rights request, and that would be a first. And if you were still an active Westfield customer, I'm not sure if we would need that data for, if you're still in the program, maybe we might still need that data to be able to calculate your score. If you were no longer in the program, like the Mission Safe program, you might no longer need that data. That would be more likely, to support the ability to delete your data. Yeah, it would be an interesting type of request. We'd have to see how that one went, but I think that's something that we could accommodate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Jillian. I think we're right at time, so maybe we can end with one last round of applause. It would be great to hear more about your AI governance work, maybe next semester or in future semesters. But I really appreciated your insights today. I think it pulled together a lot of discussions that we have in our courses here,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cool to see how it's actually operationalized at
Exactly.
in one particular company. So thank you for these insights.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
All right, you too.